I have to transfer my energy to my clients about them being excited as I am about what we're doing here, right? We know that sales are transfer energy, right? And it's to transfer the emotion of certainty.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years, and our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
And there's really 5 main things that are most important. We'll talk about what are the first 3.
You start with product, do business.
So number 1 is what? Product. What's the second one? You. What's the third one? 3's company. That's what they have to be what? 10, 10, 10, right? There's in terms of, they score them basically on the threshold from 1 or 0, they hate you, to 10, what? They love you. And so that's a key part. I have to make sure as I go through the straight line here, right, from beginning to the sale, I need to be what? 10, 10, 10. And so what happens is, there's 2 other parts in there that we got to worry about. It's a little bit ahead, but what are they?
Action threshold.
Yep, there we go. What else?
Pain threshold.
Yep. Action threshold, pain threshold. What's the action threshold?
It's a
point at which people take action. So what do we know about people? Not necessarily. What about the action threshold itself? Everyone's action threshold is different. So my responsibility, right, as a salesperson, is through questions and through discovery, I have to figure out what? A hypothesis on a scale of 1 to 10 on where their action threshold is. So if I'm having a conversation and they're very standoffish, right, the action threshold is a little bit higher, right? And so that's the key part here. I want to understand, hey, where's their at? And then if I understand their action threshold is high, I want to do what? I need to lower it. How do I do that? Through sales, through questions, through conversations, through looping, through all these things we'll talk about. Just kind of what we guys got to get really good at this. And then the pain threshold is what?
How much pain until they do something?
Yes, and then what do we always screw up on this? And he talks about this a lot. It's going back through a lot of this too. It's just a great reminder.
discovering the true pain. Usually they can use smoke screen.
Number 1, we don't know the true pain. Number 2, you don't take them back to it. So anytime that they're giving you objections, an objection is just what? A smoke screen. An objection really just says what?
I'm not sure yet.
I'm not sure. I need more information, right? I need to be more confident in there. I think he gives a couple words about that, right, in terms of that. But when they come in, right, the sales, they call it, the prospect has a lower certainty than the salesperson does, right? And my job as a salesperson is to do what? Transfer that certainty to them, to us, so we get them up to a 10, 10, 10. Where does the actual sales process start? When you ask for the order, right? So you're being judged from the first, 1/48th of a second. He talks about that. But what we have to have as salespeople is we understand that the sales process starts when I ask for the order. And I've got to be okay and look for what? No's. No's are okay. Just understand that. I think the quote I had here in my notes, right, is when you ask for the order the first time, that's when the actual sales process starts. You can only get 3 answers. Yes, no, or maybe. Right? Think about it, and that's what you usually get 90% of the time. And maybe represents objections, right? So when you ask for the order the first time, that's where the true sale actually begins. And it says when someone says, let me think about it, it's a smoke screen for uncertainty. We know that, right? And so if we think they're true at 10, 10, 10, would they ever say, let me think about it? No. And so our job at that point is to do what? We got to make sure that we start to go back and we ask questions about it. We got to go back and understand, okay, where are they at on the 10, 10, 10 scale? Most time with our business, what's it always going to be? You. Right? The product's pretty simple. The product's really good. Right? Companies, we have lots of reviews. Most of it's well known. Right? There's very rare times they may have had a bad experience or something with somebody else or her, but most time it's always trust in you. Because why? They're hiring you as the agent. And there's something they're uncertain about. And so we know that. We got to make sure we go back. But the reason I want to share that is because instead of you guys being scared to know or think about it, just embrace that and say, all right, this is where the job starts, right? This is what I'm looking for, and this is where I make my money at. Okay? We do pretty good at getting a lot of yeses with that, but that's the key part of it with that scenario. So, your presentation mindset needs to be, once I finish presentation, now give me the objections. That's when you start rolling your sleeves up and start to get to work, right? If you're deflated, it shows, which is exactly what happened to who? The car sales guy. I think his name was Keith, right? That's exactly what happened to Keith. And Keith got deflated with my first objection, and the whole thing was out the window. He let us leave without even test driving it. And I'll talk about that. He didn't even ask us to test drive the car before he let us leave the lot, which is crazy, right? What's the first thing you want to do as a car salesperson? Get him in the car. And so that's a key thing to look at overall. But what they're saying when they give you that objection is, I need to become more certain. And so at that point, what are you going to do? How do I close the gap between here and here?
On you?
And during the presentation.
Yeah. That's one way, but I want you guys to think before that. He talks about like doing what?
The idea makes sense.
Being a safe cracker. How does a safe cracker crack a safe? No. They do kind of, but. All right, well, in that process, how do they do it? How do they do that? One number at a time. Right? So if I know there's a combination, they listen to that until the one thing clicks, and then what do they do? They got that number, then what do they do? Right to the next one. And so we have to be willing and be smooth enough to understand, okay, this is no big deal. They got an objection. I'm going to ask a few questions and deflect it. And I go right back and I work on the next number. So first one's product. Next one's going to be you. We always know it's going to be you in terms of how you do that. All right? And the reason I want to teach this today is so I get my objection here. What do I do when I get the first objection? And what am I ultimately doing? You said it earlier, I think. I'm going to loop them back around. Right? And how do I loop them back around?
When they provided objections to why they won't buy it.
So they give me an objection, and I do what? Deflect it, and I say what? What do you say first? I hear what you're saying, but let me ask you a question. Does the idea make sense to you? Right? So you give me an objection, I got to think about it. Okay, you got to talk to my wife, got to think about it, whatever it is. We're so missing this simple. This isn't like the first couple modules, right? So we're going to think about it. We're asking all these crazy questions like, what do you need to think about? How long do you need to think about it? All this stuff versus just, hey, like, I totally understand what you're saying. Let me ask you a question. Do you like the idea? All right, you can switch them either way you want to. Does the idea make sense to you? Do you like the idea? Anybody know what they are? Make sense? Second one's what? Like the idea. What's the third one? You guys remember? Do you see how this can benefit you? What is that doing there? I'm shifting them to what?
To make it their idea.
I'm making it their idea and their ultimate ownership of that. Right? Does the idea make sense? You like the idea? Great. Do you see how this can benefit you? There's one more you can do. What do you think about what you've seen so far? And through that, what am I doing there? I'll put seen so far. I'm doing what?
Engaging where they're at.
Yes. What am I? Say it again.
Engaging where they're at.
I'm gauging where they are on the certainty scale, right? This is where the magic happens. Their response shows where they are on the certainty scale. And then what's my goal here? He talks about all the time and uses this. I increase their certainty by doing what? Looping them. And how do I do that? It's been too long. Exactly. That's exactly why X, Y, Z, right? You have to match their certainty and you up their certainty. You say exactly, right? In that scenario, and it's a great idea and blah, 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 right? You got to match your criteria and say, and what's after that? You guys got to remember this. It's so simple. We're so missing this. Yes. What is it? In fact, the true beauty is, right? This is exactly how we're going to help you get that investment property before anyone else. You mentioned earlier that you missed out on the previous two with the last agent. This is how we're going to help you beat everybody else and get the best deal and get the ROI you want. So exactly, it's a great idea. In fact, the true beauty is, and that's going to loop them back to somewhere in the presentation. Loop. Now go back and reclose. Does that make sense? You go back to the presentation, what do? Represent that part to them, right? Where you have that part, you have your pitch down, and you go back to what they call the secondary presentation. What's secondary presentation? I'm tailoring that part, whatever their doubt is, to them. You usually have a feeling about where they're at. And if I need to, I can do the Forrest Gump, right? But understand, after the first loop, what does he say? There's still work to do. And as I was going through this, like, man, we're screwing up because what's happening? We're getting blown up at the first objection. in many cases, or we're battling them in the first objection. So instead of being able to go back and loop them and understand, hey, guess what? Boom, nailed that one. It's okay to get what? Another objection. And that's okay. I'm going to be able to do that and go back through and I guess do the same exact thing. Right? Hey, I totally appreciate that. Let me ask you, does the idea make sense to you? Is that the idea because that benefits you? What do you think about what you've seen so far? And then I lead from the so far to what? Exactly. It's a great idea. In fact, the true beauty is I bring them back over. Right? Are they really going to notice you say the same thing twice? Most of the time they aren't. And if they are, they can't really do anything about it. Why? Because you control the frame. Am I losing you guys on this? And then we have the Forrest Gump close, which we went through before, that we have to understand. And I was trying to think to teach you guys about the part, right? Hey, let me ask you this. If I've been your agent for the last 3 or 4 years, you absolutely loved and trust me. I made you a lot of money in your previous purchase. I over-delivered every single way, and you really knew how hard I worked for my clients. You probably would be saying, I have to think about it. Is that right? Right? And then they say, right, exactly. And that I can understand. Let me take a minute to reintroduce myself, and you go back and just say your information. Right? I'm Blake Sloan. Give 2 or 3 patterns about yourself. I'll give you my script and what I came up with for you guys, right? But I said, just tell them about yourself. You're a top agent in the company, right? We're the top 1% of agents in North America. Your clients love you because you're fanatical about business. All this stuff is in here. It's a secret weapon that we aren't using. It's basically a nuclear bomb that we're not using. I know, because who can tell me the Forrest Gump close? Confidently. I think like the only one that kind of can do it. All right? And so, I want to get you guys one more close today, and we'll go on to this. I'm going to come back and teach that. We talked about the action threshold. What's a close you can use for the action threshold? Hey, let me ask you this. What's the worst that can happen? Engage in their thing. Let me ask you this. What's the worst that can happen? That's if you're getting this. This is a great one you guys all know your mind about. So they give me this, right? They're stuck. Hey, let me ask you this. What's the worst that can happen? So I'll put worst happen. And then what? What I want to do after that, you guys remember? I want to future pace them. What's future pace mean?
Show them what they can have in the future and the benefits.
I'm going to future pace the good part, right? And so I say, hey, what's the worst that can happen? They say whatever. But then he talks about this a lot in the videos. But on the upside, what it will do for you, it gets you product access for anyone else. It's going to get you into this home outside of your mother-in-law's house, whatever it is, right? Whatever their pain is, let them know, right, that what it will feel like when they're doing business with you. But on the upside, what it is going to do is get you priority access to get the best listing for anyone else. In addition to that, I'm going to get you guys the absolute best financing for the most aggressive lenders who lend the most money for the best rates. And that's all going to be seamless. You don't have to worry about anything. So no more are you going to be searching online or calling for sale signs of properties they already sold. And then I go back to the pain threshold. Anybody know how to do that? This is what I want to teach you about because I know we're missing this a lot. When we first spoke, you said that you blank. When we first spoke, that's where you go back to discovery. You said blank. What's the pain that you guys have had recently with somebody? You said you need to move out of your mother-in-law's house, right? You said you had a kid on the way. You need to get something larger. Nobody has a pain. What's a pain your clients had recently? So you said earlier that you need to sell your house because you can't afford the taxes and you can't afford the insurance that keeps going up. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. What happens if we don't resolve that problem?
Still gonna go up.
And if it still goes up and you still can't afford it, what's going to happen if we don't resolve that problem?
Foreclose on the property.
Your house will get foreclosed on. So let me ask you this. Do we really have a choice today if we take action or not? Not at all. Right? And so what do I do there? I go back to the pain threshold to get them to do what?
Remember why they're here.
To move. And they always forget why they're there in the first place. Why? Because fear sets in and we all put the wall up. Right? When we first spoke, you said that your asthma is really bad and the winters get really bad in New York and you can't breathe. All right? And now it gets worse and worse and worse. Let me ask you a question. What happens if we don't take action and we don't actually resolve this and you're stuck there another winter in New York? Could it be life-threatening?
I don't know if that's because it's like that. I mean, it's very uncomfortable and you should literally just spend all winter at home. So like I just get stuck home all winter.
Yeah, so if it don't fix this problem, you're going to be stuck in your house for 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
Does that make your asthma worse or better, you think?
Doesn't make anything better.
Probably makes you a lot worse, right? Being stuck indoors for 4 months, breathing recycled air, right? And so you go to the part. And so how do we do that? You go to the next phase. So first part is what? Spoke, you said. Second part, resolve this. Third part right here is why don't we start with blank? Why don't we start with blank? Why don't we start with getting you on this free service so we can get all these homes, so we can get you out of New York before the winter actually sets in. I look at it right now, you got about 60 days until it starts to get cold again, and all of a sudden you'll be locked in. Right? So why don't we start with getting you signed up for this service and get you properties into? Why don't we start with getting you pre-approved with a lender? Whatever the next step is. All right? To get them to move, which I think is super important.